such as motherhood. And sometimes the personal needs and values of a woman may clash with her profession. What type of biases do you think women face right now? Anybody?
Women make less money than men.
Women make less money than men. What else?
Like you were saying, different needs, like
biologically, and because of that, women are not able to do certain tasks in the military that men are able to undertake. What else? What do you think related to the legal profession that they may face some biases and prejudices?
They're not taken seriously as a guy would.
They're not. And sometimes they're called chick, girl, baby. And those names may make them feel less than men, or men feel better than women. But again, it all depends on who the woman is. Personally, I really have not faced any biases that I may just be aware of. Maybe people are biased against me, but I've never seen it. Maybe I've been lucky. However, due to age, I've actually faced a lot of them, and I still do, which is bad. What else? What other biases? What about criminal law attorneys that are women? How do you think they're going to be treated in lockup? Lockup is where you go and see the inmates.
Women are often sexualized, and men just see them as like bodies rather than a mind, or somebody who's either there to help them or to tell them like what's going on.
Okay, but like someone said, their makeup, their biology. So a woman in lockup visiting an inmate and there is some chaos in the jail at that time may face a disadvantage over men because of their biological makeup. What else can you think? You?
Yeah, they would, be unfairly targeted by the inmates, or.
Well, not all inmates are bad.
Okay.
But yes, they are seen as objects. So they were seen as property before, considered property, and still, to some extent, they are still considered objects to an end. Even in professions that women tend to populate, like nursing, there is always some type of difference between the women nurses and the male nurses. Okay, I'm going to tell you my story. I'm going to intertwine it with the legal profession. So, I'm 41 years old. I've been a lawyer for the last 19 years. And I decided to become a lawyer in 1980. I was 8 years old, which is younger than my son that is sitting right there. He's 10. And the reason why I wanted to become a lawyer is because I wanted to change the world. And I got moved by President Ronald Reagan's speech. I was sitting in the living room of my mom's house, and he was just saying things that actually moved me. I wanted to be a doctor before, but I decided that, I don't know, I think as a lawyer I could do better. And then I could not wait. So I was very patient. So I made my mom help me with skipping grades. So I graduated high school when I was 16. At 16, I had to convince my mom, because I applied for colleges during the summer, I didn't tell anything to my mom, that I had actually obtained a scholarship and I was going, right? It was August 1990. I told my mom, okay, I got the scholarship. I'm going to Denver, Colorado. I'm from Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico. Imagine that, telling my mom, Puerto Rican moms are very protective, okay? And I was so protective that they protected me so much that still to this point in my life, they don't allow me to cross the street alone. And they actually tell my son, hey, watch for mommy, she doesn't know how to cross the street. and it's the truth. So, my mom said, okay, you got the scholarship, you go. But my aunts my aunts didn't want my mom to allow me to go because that was crazy, right? From Puerto Rico to Denver. So I went. It was actually August 23rd, 1990. I went to orientation. And I went to Regis College in Denver. They're not the same, but they're quasi-related. And this is a very funny story that happened to me related to the law. I got to the airport, and my English was not really good at the time. So I said, I need a cab. I need a cab. I meant I need a cab to go from the from the airport to the college. Somehow, somewhere, once inside the cop car, he realized what I wanted. He drove me to orientation. And inside the car, I realized I messed up, but I just said nothing, right? So I get to orientation, and when I'm just getting out of the cop car, my suitcase breaks. All my clothes all over. Everyone's laughing at me because I look young now, but imagine what I looked when I was 16. All the students were laughing. That was just unbelievable. But I didn't care. I asked for tape, patched it up, and went back to meet my advisor. His name is Tom Dugan. He's a philosophy professor, and he is also another reason why I'm here, because for me, the professors meant a lot, and the teachings they gave me. I owe my legal career to two professors, Tom Dugan and James Riley from Regis College. Anyway, so after that, I needed to find a way to keep rushing through college because I really wanted to be a lawyer. I took 22 credits per semester. I graduated when I was 19, and then I came to Boston to do law school. In law school, I was also in a rush, right? Because I needed to save the world. So, age 21, I was able to get my license. And I think 2 years later, I met Jeffrey's brother. He was my student in Introduction to Criminal Justice at North Shore Community College. I started teaching when I was 20. And I helped his mom with some issues. And then later on, I met Jeff, that he needed help with Ariana in a custody battle. And from that day, when I saved that little baby, she was in a baby carrier, he brought her to the courtroom, and she needed help. I realized that being a lawyer or getting to myself at that point was actually worth it, because if I would not have skipped 1 year, probably she would not be sitting here. So there are certain times when the law and how you change the world through the law really matter. Then in law school, I did face some prejudice, but not because I was a woman, I don't think, but because I was young. And they call me kid. And still the judges, sometimes they call me kid, which is okay. I don't mind, but sometimes when they give you names, it takes away power. And you have to empower yourself to either care about it or not care about it. Okay, so then later on, I decided to do criminal law, because I really believed that everyone deserves an equal chance under the law. So for those people that are in my criminal justice class, what is the main concept in law? Innocent until proven guilty. And also there is a phrase, starts with a D. Due process. What's due process?
So, well, your rights as somebody.
You are entitled to fairness. Okay. Fairness is everyone gets equal chance under the law. And if you go to jail, hey, as long as we gave you fairness, we did our job. I love the United States Constitution, and that's what I abide by when I'm a lawyer in every field. I did criminal law for, let's see, maybe 5 years. But then I stopped when I became pregnant of my son, because I don't think I was comfortable doing the same type of heavy criminal law having a child. Like in the past, I really didn't care, but now I had someone that I had to take care of. So that's the maternity motherhood issue that women face, which is maybe not an obstacle, but a way that you have to either stop doing what you do or change your career within the law. I used to do heavy criminal law, and my dogma in life is that I defend everybody because everyone is entitled to a defense. And there are certain times, and you'll be surprised how many people are in fact innocent, but they end up in jail because the evidence says something, the news media says something, therefore it must be true. And if I were allowed, I would still be doing criminal law. I do it sometimes, but not so much. And the type of crimes, not crimes, the type of law I practiced was felonies at the federal level, state level. I've done attempted murder, rape, murders, burglaries, possession, trafficking, things that people might think it's bad. But again, don't forget, everyone is entitled to a lawyer. After that, I decided that I was gonna change my field. So I got an LLM in intellectual property, commerce, and technology. At the same time that I was pregnant with my son, I drove from Concord, Massachusetts to Concord, New Hampshire every day to take classes. So technically he has an LLM. I worked until the day that I gave birth, and even when I was in delivery, I was still doing work over the phone. And that's not a lie. But what I'm saying is the challenges that women face when it comes to maternity are totally different than men. Why? Because I had to do something right away. It could not wait. If I did not make that call, someone was going to end up bad. So it had to be done. So for women that want to get into the legal profession, they need to understand it's hard, and it might be harder than men. I'm not saying that men do not sacrifice themselves for their children, because that's not true. For example, there are two people in the courtroom, my ex-husband, John Perez-Kudzma, and Jeff again, that I saved, kind of, because I'm an advocate of fathers' rights and an expert in shared physical custody. Because I believe that men and women deserve a chance to be with their children. So, things like that made me aware of different fields of law. The need for equality could be in the courts for criminal law, or it could be in probate and family law, where there is a little bit bias in favor of women. And the bias in favor of women, it's also bad for children, because sometimes the legal system neglects children when they side with one side or the other. In the past years ago, they gave custody to men because men were the ones with the money, and women could not support them in a divorce. Everything changed, and now they give, and this is the truth, mainly custody to women because they believe that women are better than men when it comes to parenting, which is not necessarily true, but sometimes it is. I believe it depends on the individual. After doing criminal law, then again I got into intellectual property and family law. And finally now I'm doing foreclosure defense and bankruptcies. That means that I spent every moment thinking how I'm going to save that person from being evicted. And it's a real problem because sometimes you don't think about yourself, or you have to multitask. Like I'm cooking at the house, I'm taking a shower, watching TV, but at the same in the back, I need to figure out how I'm going to stop a foreclosure tomorrow. Someone's going to lose their house because the bank gave them a bad loan, for example. Foreclosure defense, I think sometimes it's harder than criminal law, because in criminal law you always think, well, maybe that person was in the wrong place at the same time. They may have done something. But when it comes to losing your house, it's a different story, because you don't only bring yourself, you bring your family and your friends in the midst of the pain of seeing you go through foreclosure, losing your home. In Massachusetts, the system has been very helpful to women there is almost at this time in 2013, men and women were equally kind of in professions in law, specifically in the judiciary. Former Governor Deval Patrick actually appointed a lot of women to the bench, which means to become judges. And at the federal level, many have been appointed. We have in Massachusetts, the First Circuit, not just the first woman, but the first Hispanic Puerto Rican woman to be the head of the Justice Department in Massachusetts, Carmen Ortiz. So women here are doing better than in other states. In Florida, it's a different type of field because they still go with the country club men system, which means this is a legal profession just for men. Now, being a lawyer in the courtroom, it's not enough. You need to be able to make law to change the world. We change the world through the trial process and heavy lifting in the court, like I say, Mariana, but sometimes you have to save the world by changing the status quo through the appellate process. That is, if you do not agree with a decision that comes from any court and you believe you have a constitutional legal basis to challenge it, you should take the case as an attorney, even if it's pro bono. In my office, they don't like when I say pro bono because that's more work for free for me, but I cannot just take a bad decision because it ruins life for other people. Who here has read the case Gideon versus Wainwright? I think you two have because I talk about it.
But that's like the guy who's in jail number 11? Okay.
Yes. That's all you know?
To be able to, he went to court, he got the right for, to get an attorney, the right to an attorney.
Yes, it was in 1964, Mr. Gideon was accused to burglarize a bar. And he was convicted the first time. He was not afforded a lawyer because in Florida at that time, you did not have the right to an attorney just because you were poor. So he lost. He appealed again, and then he got convicted again. And then he took the matter all the way to the Supreme Court. How did he do it? Was through kind of a letter. It's called a writ of habeas corpus, which means you go sit and write. Why do you think that the Supreme Court of the United States, which is the final say of the land, needs to hear your case? He never passed the 5th grade, so his education was no more than the 5th grade, but he read the Constitution. And in the Constitution, it said that you have a right to an attorney, at least at the federal level. So he wrote a letter saying, wait a minute, here it says in this Constitution that I have a right to an attorney. It doesn't say that it's a federal or state, it says the right. The Supreme Court took the case and in fact reversed his conviction, and this is the main one. Any other conviction that was a result of someone ended up in jail because they represented themselves. So that's the importance of taking matters in your own hands sometimes. Now, let's open the floor for some questions. I know some people need to go for some reason or another, so before they go, let's see if they want to ask me something.
What was your major while in
Political science and philosophy. The best one was philosophy. I'm a philosopher, so. Are you also philosophy?
Yes, ma'am.
As a Puerto Rican myself, I understand how hard it is to leave the family. So how did you deal with or speak to your family to tell them that you just wanted to go to college to pursue this career?
Well, I told you that I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 8. So I'm not kidding you when I tell you every single night I told my mom what I was going to do. So her head was probably exploding. Because, hey mom, it's 10 o'clock, let's talk about what's the first thing I'm going to do when I go to law school. Technically, I harassed my mom with that. She probably didn't know I was going to take it that far, but I did. So I didn't have to convince them. First, I had this scholarship for my 4 years at Regents. That's the main thing, you know? The school is expensive. And pretty much my mom in Puerto Rico, as you know, probably you don't know, but you probably know, and you, women are very strong. They actually are the head of the family and they work all the time. So women in Puerto Rico have more rights than here in Massachusetts because they're the bosses. It's kind of like a matriarchal. He's laughing. He's my husband and he knows my mother. And the Puerto Rican culture, Spanish culture, is like when the grandma gets old, she takes care of the children. So in my case, my aunt came from Puerto Rico to take care of my son so I could keep saving the world. And sometimes she had to like stay like 24 hours watching me through the window because I was doing some work in Worcester with some like task force with the feds and the states. And she was always watching for me. So the support system sometimes is needed for a woman that wants to enter law. You cannot do it without a support system. That's the moment sometimes women need to retire or do something else. So let's see, who wants to be a lawyer here? Here you go. So I'm gonna go you first until you want it. What type of law do you wanna enter into?
I'm thinking either immigration law or still debating.
You're still debating? Okay.
Immigration or business law.
Okay.
Constitutional law.
Constitutional law.
Intellectual property.
Well, that's where the money is. Well said that I wanted to be a lawyer? Okay. Well, forensics, you said? Well, that's not a lawyer, but you want to be into criminal investigations? Yeah, okay. No, you don't want to be a lawyer? Lawyers make a lot of money if you really work hard. You could make between $75 to sometimes $1,000 an hour. Sometimes it's not really what you make, it's the work you do for people and how that affects individuals.
There's a lot of talk in the news recently about wage inequality between men and women, and I was just wondering, from your experience, is there much of a wage gap between women practicing law and their male counterparts, or?
I've always worked for myself, so I've always been my own boss and I pay myself well, but I've seen women that when they become part of a firm, they actually get paid less than the male counterpart. And it's harder for them to become partners. And the way they treat women, and I've seen this in Boston, when it comes to boardroom meetings, it's like they don't exist.
So even though Massachusetts is, one of the front runners with women's rights,
Legally, like in the laws, but the law firms are private entities that they're run like the old men's club.
And what do you think about all these prominent women in today's society, like the Hillary Clintons or the chair Fed? What's her name? The chair of the Federal Reserve. She's a woman, most powerful economist in the entire world.
But what's your question?
My question is, do you feel like we're making steps in the right direction?
He's my husband, that's why I'm talking to him like that. It's not like I'm being mean.
Are we making steps in the right direction? And do you feel that the future for women in the law is, positive, and, are other states going to be catching up?
I believe it depends on the human being. Again, I believe women and men are women and men, but I also believe that they are individuals, and it's harder for a woman to get to the same position as a man. So whoever is a woman that wants to get to the top needs certainly to work harder. And my humble opinion is that they should stop looking for the bias or the prejudice. Just go through your life being confident, because that's the only thing that gets you to the top. I go to court all the time, and even the judge, again, calls me Carmen Elisa, even though I have 19 years of experience, and the one that I'm going against may have 2. But do you think I care, get offended? No. I prove how Carmen Elisa is just going to be the other side. And then from now on, he might call me Attorney Perez-Kudzma, but I don't care how they call me, as long as they protect the rights of my clients. And again, my opinion for women that want to enter the law field, they need to, not like they are uptight, but again, they need to be able to just think like a man sometimes. Do you understand? Because if you actually act like them, eventually they're just gonna have no choice than to treat you like a man. But certainly, you do need to complain and you need to stand your ground if the discrimination and the bias goes beyond a mere comment, because that is illegal. They cannot make any comments related to you in a workplace because you are a woman. You know that. You know that, right? What's the law? Anyone? What law protects women from discrimination because of their sex? Oh my God. Nobody? Okay, I'm going to start from here. When they say that an employer is an equal opportunity employer, what does that mean?
They don't discriminate against age, sex, gender.
So the law says that you cannot discriminate on the basis of sex, gender, national origin, and sexual orientation. Okay, so any ask me questions, because sometimes I charge $1,000 an hour because of the element in intellectual property. That's why he wants to be an intellectual property attorney. But sometimes he probably should do it for free. So yeah, go ahead.
So cases, custody cases, must be especially difficult. When you take a case, how do you determine whether the person you're defending is a fit parent? What kind of things do they do? What kind of signs? What convinces you to take that case and it goes back to that person? Because sometimes it is a matter of anger between the two parents, but how do you determine whether the person you're defending is fit to be a parent or even fit?
Usually during the initial interview, you could ask the parent about the child. And sometimes they tell you what they want, and others tell you what they think will be better for their kid. And when they put themselves before the child, it's when you know that they're doing it because of the child, not because they want to either not pay child support or receive child support, or punish the spouse because of a prior bad act. Do you understand? And it's hard sometimes because people, through the legal process, they get angrier with each other. And sometimes the fault is the lawyers, because the lawyers, sadly, they are there to make money. So a case that I would just close in 2 weeks because I'll be able to mediate and file them for amicable divorce, the lawyers take it to 2 years and 3 years, and they try to ignite the fire so the billables go up. And even if you are not that type of attorney, when you're facing that type of attorney, it gets harsher because they just find fault in anything. Oh, you put him to bed at 9:02. It's at 8:45. Things like that do not really make sense when you look abroad. However, the courts need to take care of the best interest of the child. Okay, that's the standard, best interest of the child. But sometimes in the application, they do not. I'm going to tell you why. Because women in the past have been the ones to actually collect more government assistance. So they figure, and this is sad, well, it's better if the man pays for the child support because we, the state, do not want to pay for it. To the extent that sometimes men that have been determined they're not the rightful father, they need to keep paying child support because it's either the man or the state. I think that's some type of bad discrimination for men, and because of that, some men get angry with women.
How many issues or how many cases that you have been solving since he was a lawyer until now?
Oof, more than 1,000, probably 2,000 cases.
2,000 cases.
Yeah. I currently have 500 cases, maybe 255 active, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of cases, and if you don't have time to deal with it, that's when you fail as a lawyer.
And how long it takes this process to solve?
Which type of case?
For one case,
But in what
criminal case.
criminal case? The law says that you have the right to a speedy trial according to the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution, but speedy trial means depending on the needs of the specific court. So 6 months should be a reasonable time for you to be arraigned to conclusion. However, sometimes attorneys ask for continuances, and if your attorney asks for a continuance, that means that they have waived your right to a jury trial. Sometimes you're sitting there for 2 years.
How do you find time to manage your career successfully and be a mother?
Well, I sit in my living room working because I don't go to the office sometimes, and then he sits next to me the other side doing his homework. That's pretty much how it goes. But I was lucky because he's a well-behaved kid. But it's hard. And sometimes I need to find someone to watch him because court does not wait for anybody. If I'm not at court when the judge says I have to be, that's it. My client will suffer and the judge will rule against me. But sometimes they allow individuals to do telephonic hearings in federal court. That sometimes helps, but you cannot just do it all the time. So in essence, if you want to have a trial career as a lawyer, it has to be flexible. You cannot just be tied to, sadly, motherhood or husband or any other type of commitment.
With your experience and maybe some of like your other traits that make you who you are, what would you say is your strength or your ace in the hole against other lawyers?
I am neutral and I could see the two sides. Like I could probably be a good judge because I could see your good points, your bad points, and try to get to the middle ground. Some lawyers actually go crazy one side and then they lose their perspective. Because in an argument, sometimes each has a good point. So pretty much neutrality.
They run back to applause.
Yes, rational thinking. Yeah, philosophy, if you want to be a lawyer, philosophy, it's one of the best degrees to have because it makes you actually think. It teaches you how to think. Math and philosophy are my recommendations if you want to be a lawyer.
Now, going back to women in the law, wasn't it Sonia Sotomayor, one of the first Supreme Court justices to a woman?
Not one of the first, but she was the first Hispanic Puerto Rican.
Hispanic Puerto Rican. Have you noticed any changes in the decisions that the Supreme Court has issued since her being nominated or appointed?
Not really. But again, once you become a member of the Supreme Court, you're there for life, and sadly you are allowed to decide as you may. So you may have decided one way to get to that point, and at that point your job is pretty much touch-free, unless you do something bad, that you could actually think freely. But there is a judge that might be stepping down, Ruth Ginsburg, because she has cancer. So we'll have to wait to see if it's going to be another woman or another male. What?
She's been holding on for a while.
Yes, she's tough, and pretty much she's tough. She puts her foot down, and something recently happened that she actually made a joke of something that happened to her. Who wants to tell me what it was if you know? She was watching a speech, and you know, right? She was watching a congressional speech and then she fell asleep. And then she said, well, it's too bad, they just gave me too much wine. You know, instead of just getting upset because they were making fun of her, she just said, whatever, you know. So, any other questions? You can ask me anything, 19 years of experience, I can tell you anything, probably. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if we can ask about like certain cases in general. What was like the longest and toughest case for you?
He's sitting right there. His name is John Perez-Kudzma. I helped him with his other children from my prior marriage, and it was long because it was a custody battle, and it was in Salem, Massachusetts. And Salem, Massachusetts has a lot of old-timer for judges, and their perspective over reality was a little bit close-minded, and the other side just wanted to get paid. So an issue that could have been solved because the two parents really loved the children got worse because of the attorney that was involved trying to make the matters worse. And cases that are very long tend to actually kill you as a human being, because sometimes you wonder, why am I doing this? Because I'm suffering. I had another case similar to him that I started in 2002, a custody battle, and still is 2015, and I'm still handling it after 2 times winning a trial against the mother for custody. She's still fighting. And she has ruined the child's life because the only thing the child sees is the courtroom. And pretty much the father. So yeah, custody battles take a long time. Criminal, no, because you have to have a resolution.
Do you know other women lawyers that go into lockup? You said that
they don't like going to lockup. That's a good question, because sometimes it's women's fault. Because they say, and I've heard it from some women, that they don't want to go there because it's smelly. Well, it should not be. I mean, if she would be inside lockup, it would be smelly because everyone is pretty much there waiting to be called. So sometimes women lawyers treat the inmates like, this is the truth, I've seen it, like dogs. Like they're not human beings, that they're inhumane. And they do not want to go to lockup. Lockup is a place underneath a courtroom where they put all the inmates before they get processed. So it's a bunch of people in a small room. And sometimes you have to go inside it to be able to talk to your client because of attorney-client privilege. So as a woman or as a man, you have to be confident enough to go inside all these people and hope nothing happens to you. But I've never felt threatened by any inmate, and I actually feel secure in the jail correctional system because I'm a lawyer, and I think I treat people with respect, and they actually see it. And just because you're an inmate doesn't mean necessarily that you're gonna keep continuing, like you committed a crime, or that you're just gonna go and jump on somebody. Women do not like going into lockup. And it's bad because if you do not go to lockup, you will never know your client, so you will never hear their story.
Was it hard for you to defend your first client since you graduated that young at 21? Was it hard for you to get clients?
No, it was not, because after law school, before I passed the bar, when I was 20, I was teaching. And I got lucky that one of my students said, when you pass the bar, my dad needs a lawyer. And that's how I got my first client that got me all these clients, and that's how I ended up in here. But it ended up by being a good teacher, that the students said, I'm going to recommend you to my dad. But it's hard, it's hard. But if you are good to, doing your job, then it's not hard because many attorneys do not care. Now, shaking hands with clients in lockup, women do not do that. And I'm not going to say they do not, but I've never seen one. And sometimes they do, and they use the wipes, and that's disrespectful, okay? You don't do that at all, okay? Now, they have special rooms for women to protect them in lockup, which is they take the inmate outside, and then the guards are watching. So a woman can request, or a man, not just for women, but usually women use it, a special room to meet with their clients. But the moment you do that as a woman, there is no respect. You lose all respect. Might as well go do real estate law. Yeah.
Have you ever done insanity defense in criminal law?
Yes. It was in an attempted murder. It was in 2000. I won the case. And this individual got obsessed with Pretty Woman. And he actually lost it because he found that his pretty girlfriend was dating the cop that was investigating him. And anyway, yes, I did, but I believe the individual needed help.
Speaking of winning, what do you think your win-loss percentage is? Like around 500?
80% wins, I think. Because everyone loses, everyone wins, but I'm good.
Yeah, if any lawyer says he's got 100%, he's lying.
You win some, you lose some.
You win most though.
I win most.
How do you protect yourself outside the trails?
Outside where?
Outside trials.
Another good question. When I was doing heavy-duty criminal law, I usually went with someone just in case, but the person just to drive me to the place where I was going to meet my clients, and the person would stay in the car until I went up into what hole is there to meet the client, and I just had to trust that nothing was going to happen. So it's pretty much a leap of faith. Who said that?
Soren Kierkegaard.
Exactly. Which means you need to hope nothing's going to happen. But if you're going to be afraid, don't do criminal law.
So you never dealt with threats outside the courts for cases you're representing?
Pranks?
Like you never dealt with threats?
Oh, threats, no. No one has threatened me. I've been lucky with that.
And how do criminals regard defense attorneys?
Well, some love criminal defense attorneys, some hate them. But when I was doing my criminal defense work, I felt very secure in the bad places in town, because they all knew me, right? And I had gained my own repertoire in the jails, so I was cool, I was okay. A prosecutor, not the same story, but I've never done prosecutorial work.
Do you ever have troubles not being emotionally involved with your client?
I'm always emotionally involved with every client, which means I really care about them. Sometimes I don't sleep because I need to deal with a matter the next day, and I'm just so worried that I might lose and the person might lose the house or end up in jail. The worst is when you're doing a criminal trial and the judge says, defense, stand up, and you don't know if it's going to be guilty or innocent. It's the worst feeling. But the best feeling is when they say innocent. Mm-hmm.
I'm old. I'm 50, and I want to have a second career, but I won't be alive very long. How fast can I get through law school?
3 years. It depends how many years you have left here.
On Earth, 17.
17. 17 years?
17 years.
On Earth.
Oh, no, I mean how many years you have left at Regis?
Until I fire.
Oh. 3 years. After you finish college, 3 years. Unless you take summer classes, which is what I did, and I did it in 2.5. As a lawyer, you need accounting and finance. And many men are better than women in this department. I'm going to tell you why. Why? Because women in their colleges, career guidance counselors never told them, you need to be good at math and you need to be good at finance and accounting to be a good lawyer. Okay? And I don't know why that happens, but I've worked in many colleges and they never happen to say that part. So I'm good at what I do, mainly I think, not mainly, but it's a major factor because I could deal with financial statements.
clients didn't pay you money?
I don't really care. I will continue doing the case. My office hates that. And they want me to drop the case. And I will not. And my fight with my staff is that no, I'm the boss and I'm doing it.
So I would consider your office is it free?
Excuse me?
Is your office like a free? Anyone can have it?
Well, no, it's not free, but sometimes clients hire me and they never pay me. You know? But that's why I have systems. Like, I don't deal with the money, I don't ask for the money, I give the legal advice and let other people tell them how much is it gonna be, because if I would deal with it, I would just do it for free.
Because of your love of the law?
Because of my love of the law, sadly, yes. No, that's the truth.
Is there a special camaraderie among women lawyers, or do they typically just get along equally well with the male lawyers?
In courtroom, they tend to get together in a corner and talk. Sometimes there is some alpha female that gets out of the crowd of women and talks to the male attorneys like a buddy. Right now, I mainly do the bankruptcy court, the federal bankruptcy court, and I could say that there are 3 attorneys in the whole Massachusetts that can be considered alpha females, me included one, not because it's me, that they actually go and treat men just like men and women just like women and just pretty much even. But there are others that sadly gravitate towards their corner. And sometimes they don't like each other, sadly. You know.
Female attorneys or female attorneys towards men?
No, the female attorneys. Like, they gravitate, this is my experience, okay? The legal profession is very cultural, okay? And then they sometimes say bad things about the other one, when the other one is not. But they make the mistake sometimes to tell me because they don't think I'm a lawyer initially, so I hear everything.
It seems as though there's been a decline by late in the number of persons going to law schools. There seems to be some real retrenchment law schools that we reached a peak about 10 years ago. What do you think is going on in society? I mean, we always need lawyers.
There are too many lawyers,
There's too many. Okay.
and there are too many bad lawyers. Okay, so we need good attorneys. Years ago, something happened. The Massachusetts realized that they didn't have enough attorneys to deal with appointed counsel, so they had to release a lot of inmates because they didn't have attorneys to service them. So even though there are many lawyers, sometimes lawyers don't want to do it for free, you know?
What would you say would be the check on that? Having so many bad lawyers, or maybe some lawyers that aren't willing to do defense for some of these inmates?
What do you mean, like?
Is there a way to make sure that there aren't so many bad lawyers?
Law professors should actually be tougher in law school. And this is my opinion. Ivy League schools tend to pass anybody that has entered the doors. They do not have grades sometimes, and that's bad because once you get in, for example, Harvard, I'm just gonna say Harvard as an example, don't quote me, okay? You pretty much became a lawyer. There's some school like Northeastern University, again, this one is not my opinion, I was told by the dean, that when it comes to the writing classes, there are no grades. You're not allowed to upset the student. You're not allowed to give him a C or a B. Just make constructive comments. That is a big problem in my opinion because you need lawyers that know how to write. And then the clients are the ones that actually suffer.
Based on what you heard anecdotally, what do you think the best law training? I'm thinking about my students in Regis. What is the strongest law school you think in the city? What do we have, about 10 or 11? What do you think the strongest place when it comes to writing and really training good attorneys in your 19 years?
Suffolk University, Massachusetts School of Law, it's, I think, one of the best because they actually screen you out. They allow you in. They give you an opportunity. It's easier to get in, but the first 6 months of your life, they're tough. They screen you, and they have one of the highest bar passages. Suffolk is very good. Also, another one in New Hampshire, it's Franklin Law, University of New Hampshire School of Law. That's where I have my LLM. It's really good. But I've had attorneys working for me, and I've met attorneys that come from like Brown, Harvard, Yale, and it's not there. And I think it's because they didn't train them, because they given the sense of entitlement. And as a lawyer, there is no sense of entitlement. You're always learning. Like tomorrow, I may just learn something that I didn't know today, and that's gonna make me a better lawyer. So being always right, that should not be the logo of a lawyer, okay? Because it's probably certain that you're wrong. Do you understand? And many attorneys they think too much of themselves. And that hurts your clients. Okay?
Have you seen any corruption between the lawyers and clients?
And clients, yes, sometimes. Clients and lawyers are not supposed, for example, to be in business together, and sometimes lawyers assist clients to commit fraud. But I believe the state does a good job to pinpoint and find that out. And you should never, as a lawyer, assist your client in the commission of fraud. It's okay if he tells you, I committed fraud yesterday. But if he tells you that and the next day he cannot tell you his next plan of action, you're not supposed to keep representing that person, and it's borderline the law as to whether or not you have to turn the person in. If the fraud is going to affect the economic welfare or physical welfare of another individual, you're supposed to tell.
Think of the top bottom of one or two things that would make the legal profession better for women.
The hours that court pretty much sits, instead of 8, they should probably start at 9:30. So the moms, for example, could actually take the kids to school and be there on time. And maybe some type of conferences or seminars among the legal profession to make everybody aware of the problems that women face. Men with daughters probably understand the plight of women because you protect your daughters, right? But usually men that do not have daughters or that are not close, they seem to be detached from reality. So the connection that a father has with the daughter, really it's going to be resembling the way they treat other women. Or with their mother. But daughters, I think men are more protective when it comes to daughters. Okay, so thank you very much, and I teach here, so bye.
So I just want to say thank you to Professor Perez-Kudzma for a wonderful evening. I'm sure you all learned a lot, and I was happy to see so many of you here. Thank you.